All right, everybody, welcome to session number 4 of the Window Treatment SEO Masterclass. My name is Will Henke. Excited to have everybody here. We are once again meeting to talk about SEO, talk about the different things that we can do together to really start to boost your business, boost your online digital footprint, and get you more leads, make more revenue for your business. This particular session is all about tracking your work and seeing what those results are. So all of this work we've been talking about, all these different things that you can do, don't do any good if you're not tracking them and making sure that they're working, right? So we want to make sure that the things you're doing are showing fruit, right? So today we're going to be talking obviously about tracking those different things. We're also going to talk about something called a local search grid, which is a tool that we use for our clients, and super cool, super great way to kind of see from a very, very local look on how you're doing for your business. And then I want to talk about some of the new ranking factors that need to be on your radar as well for SEO in general. As you know, my business is called Window Treatment Marketing Pros. Not going to spend a ton of time here. We won some awards. We're a veteran-owned and operated family business, as I mentioned. If you don't have a copy of my book, make sure to go get one. Make sure you order one of these. WTMarketingPros.com/book. I'll get you one of these in the mail. I've only got like 4 left right now. I've ordered some more from Amazon because I've been sending out a ton of these things, but would love to get one in your hands. So if you do have questions, please put those into the chat. I want to make sure that I get those questions answered for you, and we will pay attention to the chat here and answer them as I go along. I've mentioned our digital dominance method. There are 12 different pieces of the pie here of things that you can do for your business. For the most part, we've always been focusing on number 1 and number 4, which is your website and organic SEO. Those are the 2 big ones. We are actually going to dabble in number 2 as well, which is local SEO. We're going to play around in there a little bit as well. So if you don't have the SEO Masterclass worksheet, make sure you grab that. The team has been adding some links and things in there. We're going to be covering some tools today that I want to make sure you have access to. Most all of these tools are free. So definitely worth your time to pay attention and grab those. So grab the worksheet if you haven't. If you have, jump in there, grab it. Make sure you've got the latest version of that worksheet as well. All right. Any questions before I go on? Any questions from anybody that is live on the Zoom today or live on any of the other platforms that we're broadcasting on about last week's session? So we went over off-page stuff. So things you can do on other people's websites to affect your own business. Obviously, we talked a lot about GMB, Google My Business or Google Business Profile, citations, mentions of your business around the web, the big piece of that being your NAP, name, address, phone, always being the same. We talked about reviews, and then we talked about the big 5, really 6 biggest changes in SEO in recent years. Any questions? Anything that we need to review or go back over in a little bit more detail before we press on to tracking all of your results? Grab a drink of my Monster here because I need more energy. And I don't see anything going in the chat. All right. Give you another couple seconds here in case you're typing. You type slow like me. All right. I don't see anything. If you have a question, go ahead and type it in there. If you're typing slow, that's all right. I will stop and get your question answered. So, all right. Tracking your work and results. This is one of the less glamorous pieces, but important pieces of what you do. If you don't know what lever you pulled, you're not going to know what caused the success that you had. So very important that you're tracking these different things. So a couple different things that you need to know about. First of all, Google Tag Manager. Tag Manager is a tool that allows you to put tags for all kinds of different tools that you may be using. So Google Analytics and Google Search Console and some of these other tools that we talk about, they all give you this little piece of code to put onto your website in order for them to be able to track different things. Well, Google came along and said, you know what? Why don't we build a tool to help you put all of these pieces of code in one place? So that's what they did. So instead of putting all these individual pieces of code on your site and slowing down how fast your site loads, now what you can do is just load one piece of code, which is the Google Tag Manager code, and that in turn will offsite load all of the individual pieces of code at once. So it's a nice, faster way to get things done, and it speeds up your site. So Tag Manager is a great piece of a great tool, I guess, to help you increase how fast your site loads and to be able to verify some different sites, things that you use. As you start to get into this world, you'll find out that they always want to add some different code to your site to make sure you're legit, those kinds of things. And this is a tool that you would use to do so. Now, these links, don't be scribbling all these down because all of these will be in the worksheet as well. So you don't need to try to copy all these down real quick. All right, next, analytics. So Google Analytics is one that's been around for quite a while. Everybody, for the most part, is aware of Google Analytics, what they call universal, and that is the one that's been around for several years. As of about, I want to say it's probably been 6 or 7 months now, they forced everybody to move to something called GA4, Google Analytics 4. That is just the upgraded new version of Google Analytics. If you haven't upgraded in, let's say, the last 6, 7 months, it may be that your analytics isn't even tracking anymore. So that would definitely be worth your time to go in and check and make sure that your analytics code is still correct and that you're still tracking. Now, Google Analytics, the thing about that is, excuse me, is it tracks a lot of things. Obviously, it tracks all the visitors to your site, but it also tracks where they're going, what they're doing, what they're clicking on, what they're not clicking on, how long they spend on a page, what they liked and didn't like about page. In some cases, it tracks some demographic related stuff. It tracks if your page is mobile friendly or not, a lot of these different things. There is a lot of data that happens in the world of Google Analytics. And I actually do training specifically on Google Analytics in one of our workshops. You can find that at wtmarketingpros.com/training, a little bit more of a deep dive into the world of analytics. So I'm not going to go into that today, but you definitely want to sign up for analytics and get that on your site. And one of the things they're going to do is give you a piece of code to add to your website, which instead you will add to Google Tag Manager to add to your site to get it on there. So that will track everything that's happening on your site. So you'll know what visitors are coming, what they're doing on your site, what pages they like, what pages they don't like, that sort of stuff. You definitely want to do that. Google Search Console, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. And then the last one is mylb.net. That's Lead Boomerang. So that is the software that we've built specifically for the window treatment and awning industry to help you track leads, understand where your customers are coming from, understand the flow of your customers as they go through your sales funnel, reach out to them to get reviews, all of that kind of stuff. All of that is at mylb.net. So, all right, let's jump into Google Search Console. Search Console is another free tool that Google gives to us to use. And basically what it gives us that's different than Google Analytics is this. Google Analytics gives us all of the information about visitors to our website, right? So once they get to our website, Google Analytics tells us what they did and how long they stayed and what pages they did and all that kind of stuff. Google Search Console, on the other hand, gives us kind of a bigger, broader picture of how people are interacting or not interacting with our website. So let's say, for instance, somebody typed in window treatments in your city, right? Window treatments, Memphis. That's always the one I seem to use. Window treatments, Memphis. And what Google Search Console will do is they'll say, your website showed up 100 times when somebody typed that in. It showed up as one of the results for them to click on, but only 3 times did somebody actually click on it, right? So in analytics, you would only see 3 visits and you would get that data. With Search Console, you would see that additional data that you're not seeing with analytics. So you'll see that your site is not getting a ton of clicks when somebody types in this particular phrase. So you would be able to do some work, maybe add some content to your site, things like that, to boost that up to get more clicks for that particular search. So it gives you how many impressions or how many times your website showed up as an option to be clicked on. And then, of course, how many times it was actually clicked on in this tool. So that's just one of the things it does. But it just want to give you the idea that it gives you more broad Google-related information about your website than just visits to your site. So really cool tool. It's free. So you might as well sign up for it, get in there. Now, the other thing that it does is it gives you a health update for your website. If your site is hacked, if your site is sending out pages that maybe are not mobile friendly, it will send you a link, or it will send you an email and saying, hey, we noticed some of these pages are not mobile friendly. It will give you a list. It might send you an email saying it looks like your sitemap is broken, so it'll give you some health related things about your website as well. So definitely a great tool to have, sign up for, absolutely free. They'll give you some code to add to Tag Manager as well. So make sure you do that on there, but definitely something that we do in the first couple of days of getting a new client. Analytics, I've mentioned, this is all related to visits to your website. You definitely want to sign up for this. Again, absolutely free. Google Analytics 4 is the only version you can get now. So you'll definitely want to do that. If you're still on Google Analytics Universal, they'll prompt you to go through the upgrade process. You will have to update your links, your tags and things like that in the back end, but they make it pretty easy to do so. So if it's been a while since you've updated your Google Analytics code, you might want to go visit that and just make sure that it's still accurate. All right, the other piece of this is the lead boomerang piece I mentioned earlier. So the dashboard that we've built specifically for our clients is looking at it from a more, I hate to use the word holistic, right? But it's that 10,000 foot view of everything that's happening with your business. All the phone calls that are coming in, all the visitors, how many people are filling out forms, how many people are using your chat widget, how many people are, how many proposals have you sent out, how many appointments have you had, how many of those appointments turned into business, how many did not turn into business, how many people abandoned or didn't show up for appointments, those kinds of things. All of that tracking is built into that tool. So having those KPIs or key performance indicators are things that will just help your business really start to shine and start to you'll be able to see different things along the way where things maybe are broken, or you can automate and just make them a little bit better and really start to separate yourself from all of the other people that are doing the same thing in your city. This is where the tool really starts to shine. So we really like how versatile it is and all the different things that you can do. But they all start with these KPIs and having these things in place. Now, in analytics, there is something called goals, and we do set some of these up for our clients too. For instance, book appointment, you can set that up as a goal in analytics. And typically what you would do is you would have a page after your appointment page, right? You'd have a page where they can set an appointment, whether that is your calendar link or just a form. And when they hit submit, they go to some sort of a thank you page. Thank you for setting up your appointment. We will reach out to you to confirm it soon, right? That thank you page is hidden from everywhere there's no way anybody could find that page. The only way to get to that page is by filling out the form. So that is a perfect example of setting a goal in analytics, that every time somebody reaches that thank you page, you get a check mark, right? Or you get a 1. So then you could just compare that month over month. Looks like in February, we got 26 appointments set through the website. In March, we got 22. In April, we got 18. Why is there a trend down, right? You'll be able to see that kind of a thing with this sort of a setup. And then, of course, you can do that with other things like if you have a lead magnet, how many people are downloading your design guide or whatever it happens to be. How many people are downloading your Hunter Douglas free catalog, right? If you have something like that set up. Any kind of thing where the person that visits the site takes some sort of an action, then you can track that as a goal in analytics, which is pretty cool. You can obviously track those, over time and see, are we hitting our goals? How can we increase that number? Do we need to run some ads to get more people to do this? But you can start to see those as time goes on and compare month over month, year over year, those kinds of things. So pretty cool. All right, next, call tracking. So this is the other big leak that happens when you do SEO. So you do all of these things to get people to your site, all of this work to get to your site, and then they pick up the phone and call you, and there's no way to track. Well, there is a way to track that. We're going to talk about it. But typically, if you just put your phone number up there and they call you, there's no way to track or say this person called because they saw this particular ad or this particular tweet or whatever it was, right? It's a leak. It's a missing piece. So the way to fix this is to add call tracking to your site. And call tracking is a phone number that you get that just forwards to your regular line, but it's a different phone number. It only shows up on your website. And that way, the only way anybody would ever dial that number is because they saw it on your website, right? So it forwards to your regular line. They don't know any different, but now it's trackable. So if they called that number, they're in analytics. So now you can see they called that number. That was the action. You can track that backwards to see how did they find us? What did they do? Where did they come into the website? What was their action to get here? Those kinds of things. So call tracking is that piece. We've built that into Lead Boomerang as an option. And we have clients that use it for multiple purposes. So they'll get multiple phone numbers and use it for multiple things. So paid ads, if you're running Google ads, Google offers this as part of their service where they'll give you a phone number that you can track. So if somebody calls that number, of course you get billed for them clicking the ad. Instead of clicking the ad, they called the number, which means they engage with your ad and Google charges you, right? We put a call tracking number on all Google My Business profiles. So we add a call tracking number there. We have clients that do postcards. So you'll see postcards like this. Thank you for visiting my website. It has a phone number on it. Where is the phone? Oh, it's down here in the corner. There's a phone number down there. That phone number forwards to their regular phone. But now we know the only reason they would call that number is because they received this postcard in the mail. So there's a lot of ways to have the call tracking set up and work for you to be able to track whether some sort of marketing campaign is working or not. We have clients that do door hangers. I mean, you could do anything. You could do a billboard and put a call tracking number up there and then know if that money was working or not, right? So that works out pretty well, and that's pretty cool. So I don't know why it jumped backwards like that. Here's one of our clients from last week. And if you just take a screenshot from the call tracking, almost all of their calls are coming from Google My Business. So I know I've mentioned this before, that for our clients, 60 to 70% of their calls are coming from GMB. So the only way we know that is because we track it. So it's very important to have the call tracking in place so that you can know these things, right? That if 60 to 70% of my calls are coming from this particular thing, I need to put more of my resources toward this thing, right? Because it's going to generate more revenue for me. So this is just an example from Inside Lead Boomerang. Here's the calls that are coming in. Here's the source. In this case, you can listen to those calls, things like that. Pretty cool. So that's call tracking, by far one of the coolest things you can do. And it's great because you can track everything back. I absolutely love that, to show yourself this campaign's working, this one's working, but boy, nobody called when we did this. You know, when we did the money mailer, nobody called us. That was a waste of money. And that's just an example. But it gives you that luxury of knowing certain things that you did worked or didn't work, showed a return, what that return was, you know, that kind of stuff. All right. BrightLocal. So there are a couple tools that I mentioned last week in the off page. BrightLocal was one of the tools I mentioned, and it's the one that we use. BrightLocal lets you see some very, very local related data to how people see your business online in a very uber local way, right? It gives you some really cool data about your business. Now, this is a tool that costs money. I think it's 20 or 30 bucks a month for one business. It's not expensive for one business to do. This is something that we add for all of our clients as well. It gives you a dashboard along with how people see your business. We talked about the NAP, name, address, phone, right? So it'll give you, I'll jump over here. It gives you that information on what they call their citation tracker. So here's your citation score. Here's how many are live. Here's how many are pending, still waiting to be approved, those kinds of things. And of course, the goal here is to get towards 100. You're probably not going to get to 100 because citation sites are always being added. Sites are always coming offline, things like that. But if you can get into the upper 90s, that's the goal, right? That's a long-term process, a long-term goal to do that, but that's the goal, right? But this is a really cool tool. It tells you, okay, on Yelp, your name is right, your address is right, but the phone number is wrong. So then you just click on that, go to Yelp, update your address, wait for Yelp to approve it. Then that NAP on Yelp is now correct, and your score goes up to whatever, in this case, 58, right? So it gives you all of these different places. It shows you right or wrong. And then it also shows you how many people are searching for you, how many people are seeing you on these different platforms. So some really cool stuff. We really like BrightLocal. We love the citation tracker, that it kind of gives you an idea of where you're at. It also looks at your competitors and kind of shows you what you're up against, right? Which is really nice. It does do a rank tracker. So it'll say, overall, you're ranking for this many keywords. Here's where it was before. Here's where you're at now. But the coolest part of what I think BrightLocal does is it'll give you a map, what they call the grid, local search grid. So you put in a keyword and you put in your address, right? And then it will say, okay, if somebody searches for this keyword in this location, this is where you show up. Or in this case, you don't show up, right? So custom window treatments near me. If somebody searched for this, what is this? October of 2023 for this client of ours, they were nowhere to be found. Now, this is mostly mobile related, right? Most people are doing search on Google My Business for on their mobile devices. That's just mostly what happens. They were nowhere to be found in this particular area. I think these dots are maybe 1 or 2 miles apart. In this tool, you can change that from half mile, 1 mile, 2, 3, 5, and 10 miles apart. So the way that we do it for our clients is we start at 1 mile apart. Once they get to green, then we expand that to 2 miles. And then what will happen is the center will be green and all the edges will then be red, right? Because they're just not, they haven't gone out that far. And then we start over. We start to process over and get them ranking around the edges. Once those are green, we change that to 3 miles, do it again, that kind of stuff. The goal here, obviously, is to get everything to green, right? Where somebody types a search in, and no matter where they're at around that area, you're the first one that comes up in the 3-pack. This is the goal long-term, and BrightLocal helps you make that happen. So I'm not compensated by BrightLocal. I just really like their tool. Here's residential awnings near me. I think this is a search in LA, right? So this is a very competitive place. And then of course, here's the after, right? So that's what you're looking for, is to get that. Now all you do is expand to a bigger area. And before you know it, you're kicking butt, taking names for a pretty large section of where you're at. And you're covering a wide area. So that's the goal. All of that is inside the BrightLocal grid area as well. All right, let's jump over and see if there are any questions before I start talking about the new ranking factors. You guys have any questions on anything so far? Plus, I want to get a drink. I'm talking a lot. All right. I don't see anything. You guys getting some good value? I hope so. All right. All right, let's move on to new ranking factors. So there's quite a few things going on here. We put this through our SEO team and said, what are the latest things that we need to be paying attention to? All right, so first thing is click-through rate, CTR. Being a former military person, I love the acronyms, right? That is the government way. So CTR, click-through rate, is how many people saw your website and clicked through. This is also true for paid ads, right? They saw your ad, but did they click it and click through to the landing page or your website, whatever it happens to be? So earlier I mentioned Google Search Console and the fact that your website showed up 100 times, but only 3 people clicked on it. That's an indication that maybe your title tags are not, they're poorly written, or your description isn't correct, things like that, right? There are things that you can then go back and do to improve that click-through rate to get more people to click through on your result as compared to the others. So click-through rate is an important piece, and it all reflects back to week 2, which is on-page SEO, things that you can do yourself to help increase the number of people that click, and they see what they see is what they resonate with and want to click on that. Now, the next piece of that is time on page. So once they clicked on that result, how long did they stay? Now, there used to be something called time to long click. I don't know if it's still a factor or not, but Google used to track, I bet they probably still do. They used to track visitors. Let's say you did a search for window treatments near me, right? And you clicked on the first result, and or some customer of yours, right? They clicked on the first result, they looked around, they clicked the back button, and they went to the second result. They looked around, they clicked the back button, they clicked on the third result, they looked around, and they didn't go back to Google. So Google's watching that, and Google would call that third result the long click, right? That whatever was on that third result probably answered the question of whatever that person was looking for. So then Google sees the query, they see that that third result probably answered the question. And in Google's algorithm, they say, okay, for that query, the third one might be the best result, right? Now, of course, this is happening thousands and thousands of times over the course of a couple of days, probably, right? So it could be that whatever that was, the quality of the content on that third result has caused that result to be better than the other two and probably helped move it up in the rankings. So they do watch time on page, how long somebody spends on a page. There are other things you can do to help skew this a little bit, such as adding video to your site, right? Somebody who comes to your site to solve some sort of problem, and there's a video that helps them answer that. Well, they're going to watch the video, right? So they might spend 3 or 4 minutes watching a video that helps them answer that. Google's going to see that they spent 5 or 6 minutes on your site, and Google's going to pay attention to that, right? So there are some things you can do to help influence that time on page number as well. So consider those kinds of things as part of your strategy as well. Time on page, very important. Now, another piece of this is scroll rate. Are they scrolling down? Are they just coming to your website, looking and saying nope and hitting the back button? Are they just coming to your site, looking around and just bailing altogether, closing the window? Are they not scrolling down, right? Basically, are they not seeing what they need to see? Are they not resonating with the page? There's something in the world of paid ads called ad scent. Does this smell similar to the ad I just clicked on? Or did I click on an ad and land somewhere that's totally different? This was a really big problem back when clickbait was a really big issue, right? You'd click on something, land on a page that had absolutely no relevance to whatever you just clicked on. Not so much the case anymore in most cases, but it's still, this is a big thing. Do people land on a page and then start scrolling and looking at the page and engaging with your site, engaging with your page? I think that's the big piece of this. So are they paying attention? And Google is watching that, especially if you have Google Analytics tied on your site, because now they see them going to Google, doing a search, then they see them landing on your site and engaging with your site. They can watch all the things that happen there as well, right? So very important on that side. All right, next, bounce rate. I've kind of already talked about this. Do they come to the site? Do they hit the back button nearly immediately? Google has never given us a number on what they consider bounce rate. We know it's somewhere in the 6-second area. If somebody comes to your site and within 5 or 6 seconds, they hit the back button, that's a bounce. Basically, they didn't see what they liked. They didn't like what they saw when they came to your site. But Google does pay attention to that. So definitely important. Now, one thing I will say about bounce rate, if you go to Google and just on that dashboard, look at your bounce rate and see that it's really high, don't get discouraged, because that number is going to be the bounce rate for your entire website, right? Some pages are just going to have a bad bounce rate. Your contact us page, if somebody for some reason landed on that page first, they're probably going to hit the back button because it has no content on it, right? There are going to be these pages that don't have a lot of content, and people are going to hit the back button. What's important is if you drill down in analytics and look at your Roman shades page, what is the bounce rate on that page? If that page has a 60 or 70% bounce rate, that's a problem. But if that page in particular has a 20 or 30% bounce rate or some real low number, awesome. So don't be discouraged when you just log into analytics and see this crazy number, high bounce rate. Obviously you want it low, but don't think that is the determining factor of everything that's happening in your world. These particular product pages and service pages are really the pages that are the meat of your SEO right? So those are the pages that you're mostly concerned about. All right. User experience. I have mentioned this over the last couple sessions as well. It's not just about looking pretty. There are plenty of web designers out there that can just make the prettiest darn thing you've ever seen. But if you don't have calls to action, if you don't have obvious next steps, if you don't have a pleasing experience to the user, they're not going to rank you well, right? So again, if we talk about time on page, right? People are spending time on your site because they're having a good experience with your page. So these factors are very important to Google in the last couple of years. The overall experience that they're having has to be good. The other side of this is mobile. Does the screen reorientate itself? Is reorientate a word? I'm not sure it's a word. But does it do that thing to make that person's experience good when they're trying to find that information? On a cell phone, do they still spend a decent amount of time on that page? Or is it only when somebody's on a desktop that they spend good amount of time on that page? If so, the UX on mobile might be poor. So that would be an issue. So definitely worth looking into overall, what is the user experience when somebody visits your site? Obviously make sure it's good, but it doesn't always just come down to having a beautiful site. We're more interested in obviously converting people to leads, but also leading them down a path so that they have a great experience. They can engage with the content in a way that they prefer to engage with it as well, and that those are all available to them. Now, this is a big one, and this has been hot topic for, I don't know, last year or so. The EAT or EAT, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. These are all just factors that Google's looking at when it comes to your site. Does your site exude these things? Are you an expert? Do you have the authority when you're talking about whatever this happens to be? And is it trustworthy? Do you have trust signals on your site? Do you have a BBB logo? Do you have links from other trustworthy sites pointing back to yours? All of these are things that really make Google love your site more and want to help your site rank higher. So all of these are definitely pieces of it, and definitely worth spending a little bit of time just typing in Google EAT, and learning a little bit more about all the pieces of what's involved in making sure that your site has these things in place. More than I could cover in one session or 2 or 3 sessions, quite honestly. But these are the big pieces: expertise, making sure you're an expert, making sure the content is good quality content, not just fluff, right? Make sure you're authoritative, that you are the authority, you're speaking with authority. There's good quality content, again, related to that. And then of course the trustworthiness of the content as well. It's correct, and that you have the other signals in place related to that. Core web vitals, definitely an important piece. Make sure that all of these things are in place. Speed of your site. Is it mobile friendly? All of these different pieces. Make sure you're sending the right signals to Google about your site, all the way down to the server that you're running on. Don't try to chintz on some of these things and think that cheaper is better. Definitely make sure, web servers are not expensive. Web hosting is not an expensive, thing to have. So make sure that all that is working correctly and that your site has plenty of speed and responds quickly to the search engines, for sure. And then NLP, natural language processing. All of this is fairly new. There are courses and certifications out there nowadays on NLP, and all of the things that it can do for how you create content, how you speak to people, how you speak obviously online, to how you create the content, how you put all that online, and just the way that you generate things for people when it comes to the content as well. Google's looking at these things and they're learning more and more about this as time goes on. Obviously, the other side of this is AI, right? That world is consistently getting better and better, and understanding things like NLP and how all that works together to influence people to create better content. So definitely something that needs to be on your radar when it comes to building a site and ranking a site. All right. And then one I did mention earlier is video and multimedia. So I know a lot of you probably don't like to be on video, and you don't like to kind of be the face of the business and have that kind of a piece. But boy, it will really separate you and make your business a lot different than a lot of the others when you have that extra little piece of something that all of your competitors don't have. Even if it's just product demos, tours of the workroom, those types of things, people just love those, and having that stuff obviously helps with your time on site, your time to long click that I mentioned. And then of course, it also gives you additional platforms to put that content out on that all affect your website as well. So building that video, that podcast, that audio, pictures, all of these kinds of things can really start to separate your website from the others. Another one that I've mentioned many times, and I definitely think is true, is the number of citations and relevant links to your site. For our clients, this is a priority one in month one when somebody signs up with us. One of the first things that we do is start working on citations. They're that important because we know that they're going to affect their Google My Business profile. And the better off that we can get that going, the faster we can get that grid to green, the more leads they're going to get, the more revenue they're going to generate, right? And the more they're going to love us, quite honestly. So the faster we can do that, the better off we'll be. It's also something that you can start on right away with, whereas building a website, adding in title tags, things like that can take a while, not only to do, but then to get Google to take notice of the fact that you did them, and then to move you from page 8 of Google to page 3 of Google. That's a long process. It's one that has to be done, but it takes a while. Citations is something that can happen pretty quickly from the time you start working on it to the time that it affects where you're ranking in, especially in that 3-pack of results. So there's definitely some investment up front that is going to show faster returns in the world of revenue. So citations is something that we want to do early on. The problem with citations is there's a finite number of them. I think we do around 225 of them, and then we kind of run out. There's not a whole lot more to do after that. And that's where, title tags and some of this longer organic SEO stuff really hopefully is kicking in by then, right? But this is the easy, quick path to get the process started while the other stuff is kind of stewing in the pot, right? So definitely a big piece of this as well. All right, let's see if we have any questions over here. Here's a review of kind of what I went through today. A lot of different pieces here of things that you need to be paying attention to. And I know there's a lot that you have to kind of pay attention to at the same time. Leah says, what is the best way to include video without slowing the site down and without having them leave to view it? So good question. The best way to do that is to create a YouTube channel for your business, not your personal YouTube. So create an actual YouTube channel for your business, upload your videos to that YouTube channel, and then use the embed code from YouTube and put that into your website. So you'll just embed the code on your website. And what will happen is when somebody pulls up that page, it will actually download the video from YouTube to show on your page. So you won't get charged by your hosting company for bandwidth usage, things like that. So you would use the embed code from YouTube. Typically, after you upload a video, there's a share button. And one of those options there, along with all the social media options, is to get the embed code. You would grab that and then you would paste that into that page on your website. Then they don't have to leave the site to view it. It just shows up in the little window there. The nice thing about that is you can also control the thumbnail that people see, the first picture that they see, to determine if they want to click on it and watch the video a little bit further on. So that's the best way to go about doing that. Other questions? Do we just have a quiet group today? Or maybe I've done such a great job at explaining. Oh, now here comes some more questions. Darn it. What is the best software or website to use to track which specific searches for a particular keyword came from organic and which came from PPC? Which is the best software or website to track which searches came from organic or PPC? So if you are using Google paid ads, then Google will share that data with you. So it will show up in Google Analytics as a pay-per-click visitor or a organic visitor. If it's an organic visitor, Google won't tell you what keyword they used. There's no way around that. Obviously, if you're using paid ads through Google, they will tell you that somebody clicked on this particular ad group to visit. Now, when it comes to particular keyword, I don't know if they're going to be that specific to tell you that information. You can kind of reverse engineer that between Google AdWords platform and Google Search Console to get that information. It's a bit of work to get that information, and it's probably more work than anybody would want to do. You'd probably be more interested in cost per lead at that point. For this ad group on paid ads, what is my cost per lead? Is it $150? Is it $60? Whatever that number is, am I comfortable spending whatever that number is to get more leads? Obviously, the cheaper, the better, right? But that's probably the best way to do it. Now, on some ad platforms, you can use what's called UTM factors. You can use UTM to send additional information to your CRM or to your whatever landing page you're using, or even Google Analytics. And you can say, you can build out this long link. And it says, if somebody clicks on this link, send this additional information. Send that it was ad group shutters and that it was keyword shutters 1, 2, 3, or whatever your keyword was. And it was on the platform Facebook. So you can build UTM parameters for every single ad, every single ad group that you want. It's a lot of work to do that, especially if you want to track all the way down to the keyword level. It's a lot of work, but it can be done. But that's what you would do. You would use UTM parameters to do so. Um, as for software, by the way, Google Analytics would do it. Lead Boomerang does it. Any of these CRMs anything that is receiving the visitor and tracking that visitor, they all offer that tracking service. UTM's pretty common across all of them. From YouTube, if I decide to work with a marketing agency, how do I measure my ROI? How can I be sure the leads I get come from the efforts of the marketing company? Well, that's a good question. I think the first piece of that is to establish a baseline of what kind of leads are you getting now and where are they coming from? So right now we're getting 10 leads a month from our website, an average of $3,000 per closed job, and we're closing 40% of those, right? So if you know those basic numbers, you know what the baseline is. And then if you hire a marketing company and those numbers go up, you'll know what that gap is, right? That was created from that additional effort. If there's platforms you're not using at all, that's pretty easy, right? That additional revenue from those platforms would all be attributed to that. So I think that piece would be easy. But I think it all comes down to establishing the baseline as it is now. So knowing what that is at the moment in time before you hire them. And you'll probably want to know those couple things. How many leads are you getting by source? What is the average closed job worth? And then what is your close rate? The trick with close rate is everybody thinks they're the world's best salesperson, and they typically put that number pretty high. In most cases, your average close rate is probably 20 or 30%. If you factor in all the phone calls and all the web forms and all the people you meet and all that kind of stuff. So you just have to be kind of honest with yourself and make sure that you're honest with what that actual conversion rate is. All right. Will, do you have a standard price list for each of the service you offer? Yes, I can share that with you. We don't do it by services. We do it. We just have programs. So I can definitely share you our different programs. You can also see them at wtmarketingpros.com/pricing. They're all listed there as well, but happy to send something to you, Eric. All right. Any other questions? You guys have been awesome. All right. Next week, by the way, while we're finishing up, if you have any questions, please go ahead and put those into the chat. I want to make sure you guys get everything answered. Next week, we are on week number 5 already. We're talking we got that backwards. Next week, we're talking all about the things that might be hurting your rankings. So this week was all about tracking your work. Next week, we're talking all about the things that might be hurting you. So what are the things that you might be doing that could be messing all this up, right? So that's what we're going to be talking about. Sorry, the slide's backwards here. But we will be talking all about what are the things that you're doing that might be messing all this up. So we want to make sure with all this work that you're doing, you're not shooting yourself in the foot. Definitely want to pay attention to that. That's next week. And then we've got the wrap up, not too far off. And this is the best time, obviously, to have all of your questions together in one place. And you might even start seeing some of your results if you've been doing this. I know some of you after week 1 and 2 really started to dive in and do some of this stuff. So I'd love to see if you've had any results from that. And if you want to send me your URL, I'd be happy to plug that into some of our tools and see what's going on there as well. I'd be happy to do that for you. So, all right. Thank you guys again for jumping on. These are the 2 QR codes. If you haven't already taken advantage of these, the Facebook group is where all the questions and answers can be questioned and answered. Anything you might have that didn't get covered today, something that comes up later on and you want to get an answer to that, post it in the Facebook group and we're happy to jump in there and help you with that. And then of course, all the resources to everything that we've done is located on that link there. You can download those. Every week, we're always updating that main resource list there as well. So thank you all for jumping on. Thank you again. We'll see you next week for session number 5. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. We'll see you next Wednesday. Thanks, everyone.